This week's episode is extremely special to me. I got a chance to interview a couple who've been together for over 30 years and really get into the nitty-gritty of what made their relationship work and last so long, and what were the challenges that continued to feel like they were always going to get in the way. See, I believe we can gain wisdom from listening to other people's stories. So I brought Sally and John Feysandier to share with us their experiences. They share the humor, the grief, the anger, the times where you wonder, is this actually going to work? So let me tell you a little bit about them. Sally grew up in rural New Zealand with two brothers and a tribe of cousins. She began her working life as a high school teacher, then retrained into psychology. She worked as a counselor with organizations including the Blind Foundation and in diabetes and general counseling. After further study, she moved into research and evaluation across several government departments. Now retired from paid work, she works more than full-time for the New Zealand Green Party, leading their policy development. John grew up in a family of 9 children. His first career spanned 19 years, training and serving as a Catholic priest. Through psychodrama and deep personal work, he came to see there was a better way for him to live. Not long after leaving the priesthood, he met Sally, and we get to hear that story. He spent several years as a psychodrama therapist in a drug and alcohol rehabilitation hospital. For the past 25 plus years, he's run his own business, teaching people to manage emotions at work and at home. He now leads a weekly online program helping managers handle workplace tension, conflict, and challenging conversations. Now, John and Sally met over 36 years ago, and they've continued talking ever since, and you'll hear, and laughing too. They've been married for 33 years. They have one adult son and a young Danish woman they've taken under their wing and love as a daughter. Between the two of them, they've had plenty of practice at the conversations that now John teaches the managers he works with. You're going to learn so much from them in this episode. Even listening to the replay again, I was like, wow, there's just so much goodness in this episode to remind us that even when it gets hard, you can see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light doesn't always mean leaving. So grab a warm drink and let's dive in. Welcome to Relationship Reset, a podcast for high-achieving couples who've been together for over a decade and don't want to feel like roommates anymore. I'm Katie Russler, relationship strategist and couples counselor with almost 20 years of experience helping ambitious couples reconnect, strengthen communication, and turn their relationship into the best part of their success story. This podcast is about using practical tools and a lot of real talk to help you understand your patterns, stop feeling stuck and discouraged, and start working on your relationship in ways that actually fit your busy life. Because your relationship shouldn't be the cost of your success, it should be the best part of it. So let's dive in. Welcome back to the podcast. You all know that I love to interview couples to talk about what's worked in their relationship, what challenges are they facing, and just give all of us a good, clear picture that we are normal and challenges are absolutely normal in all relationships. But today I'm really excited because I'm speaking to John and Sally Feysandier in New Zealand. And as you guys know, I'm in Munich, Germany. And so it is 9 p.m. at night for me, well, 9:10, and it is 9:10 in the morning for them. So they look bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I look like I'm ready for bed. But we're going to go into some great discussions about how they met, how long they've been together, and the challenges they faced, as well as what are the tools they use in their relationship to stay connected. So John and Sally, thank you so much for allowing me to probe into your relationship and to learn more about both of you.
You're welcome.
So I want to start us off with, if you don't mind, sharing a little bit about each of yourselves and what you do, and then we'll get into how you guys met.
I retired in 2019. That was 64 and a half years of age. And when I retired, I'd been working in public service. I basically said, right, now's my chance. I don't have to worry about being politically neutral. I can be me. And what I cared mostly about was climate change. And I really wanted to do something about that. So just gradually over the time since then, I've got more and more involved in the Green Party. And also I have been working harder at our little back garden to produce our own veggies and herbs and things, and learning how to do things to prepare food that does not come in packages and I can make my own. So really try to think quite hard about how to minimize our footprint in the world.
That's wonderful. So it sounds like really your passion is putting back into the earth and taking from the earth in ways that are supportive. And John, share a little bit about yourself.
My work, I have my own business and I teach people to manage conflict and tension in the workplace. Been doing that for the last 25 or so years. In the last couple of years, I've been developing more of an online version of this program and particularly focusing for managers. But I've done a lot of work with frontline staff, face-to-face training. My original training in this was as a psychodramatist. And so I bring that whole way of thinking systemically to that work. Sally does a lot of the making of things in the house, like all of those things, and I'm very good at cleaning up. I do quite a lot of cooking because Sally gets quite involved in her work in the Green Party, and so I see one of my missions in life is to keep her fed and watered, and on a daily basis. She does it more on a weekly basis by creating the bread and all these other wonderful things.
I love that you've already kind of identified your roles now in your relationship and who's doing what. What was it like when you guys first met, and how did you first meet?
At the time, I was studying clinical psychology, and I had been a high school teacher of English and drama. So across my studies in psychology, I heard of this thing called psychodrama. And I thought, oh my God, that's a really interesting combination of two areas that I've been working in. So I contacted somebody in Christchurch in relation to psychodrama who said, there's a conference coming up in 2 weeks' time at weekends. You might like to come to that and just see how it works. And so I went to that conference. And at the time, my then husband was overseas, and I was in the space of, am I going to stay in this relationship or am I going to leave? I'd had, by that time, maybe a year of psychotherapy myself, just trying to sort my life out. So I went along to this psychodrama conference, not expecting anything, but I ended up being what they call a protagonist in a drama.
Ooh, so yes.
They identify people who work with the group, do the warm-up, find somebody who seems like they're just absolutely ripe and ready to talk about their situation, and that was me. And so I was the protagonist in a drama, and I went, oh my God, this scary thing of stepping into a big black hole of nothing. What if I leave this marriage? What does this nothing represent? When I walked out of that, finished up the drama, walked out, just kind of wandered a bit aimlessly around, found myself in the hall, and there was John practicing on his guitar for the evening session. He looked at me and went, gosh, well, what did you say? I was kind of like, oh,
You're
no.
new. I've never met you before.
Yeah. And I just went, I've just been the protagonist in a drama.
Like everything's raw right now.
And so he gave me this great big hug.
And here we are.
And I think he kind of went, if she's vulnerable, I could...
No, gorgeous. I think the word is... Yeah.
That's the word.
Gorgeous. I had been involved learning psychodrama for maybe 5 years, so I was very involved in that organising the conference, and I was confident about being in that environment. I had been a Catholic priest in a seminary and working for the previous 19 years and had only just left in the November. This was January, so I was on the lookout.
For anyone beautiful and vulnerable.
Beautiful, and had just done a drama and was interested in psychodrama. So music and psychodrama were big deals for me at the time. So that's how we met.
Then there was the dance that night, wasn't it?
The dance that 2 nights later. Where...
And then I went to psychotherapy on Monday morning, and I said, I think I've decided to leave my marriage. And it was more at that point of, if there are nice men in the world, it's possible that I would find somebody who I could reconnect with. I was scared of being alone, I think. And it didn't mean John was the one, but it did mean, gosh, I found somebody who was interested in me, and I don't have to just kind of hang in an unhappy relationship if I can just be brave enough to step out
And it sounds like you were saying that as the protagonist, it's like stepping into this black hole of like, what would life be like not in this relationship? And then you come out and you're like, John with a guitar. That's what it could be like. Someone serenading me and giving me a hug and then dancing, and like immediately possibility was shown to you.
Yeah, well, the drama itself showed that to me as well. So the drama, the resolution in that drama was me stepping into a big black hole and finding a kindred spirit.
Oh,
that had already been kind of...
You were primed. Yeah.
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 You were primed. And John was like, I just happened to be ready too.
Here I am.
Then how soon after that did you guys decide then, okay, let's build this relationship?
I definitely started looking almost immediately for somewhere that I would live, move out.
You only looked at
made
the area where I was living.
Made a point of looking in the area, sort of reasonably close by where John was. And it was just a matter of weeks, really, that I moved into a little flat. And just gradually over the next year and a half, I have to say there were other blokes suddenly available.
There was a queue.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? You're 35, still relatively interesting to people, I suppose, and no children, no attachments.
I thought she was also very wealthy, but it turns out that he had kept all of the properties in the German bank account and basically untouchable. So we all make mistakes.
John. I love the humor that the two of you share. And I'm sure listeners are like, what? I promise this is a mutual humor between them.
We do joke a lot with each
Which
other.
is wonderful. I mean, I think humor is such a key to bringing us together, but also to taking life a little bit lighter than it, we end up being too serious sometimes. So you guys ended up together. And what were some of the challenges you faced in the first few years of your relationship?
So my ability to change and pivot, I struggle. For me, making sudden changes is a really big thing. So John kind of pushed me faster than I really wanted to be pushed into living together. We moved into a flat and...
Still took over a year.
Well,
2 years.
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't even divorced at that point. And those first few months together was terrifying for me, really very challenging. He had expectations of me and was almost making demands about how I needed to behave. And there was definitely moments where I thought, oh my God, this is a terrible mistake. It's different, isn't it? Between the whole dating and even spending nights together, that's one thing. But actually, every day it's an adjustment. And I guess at that point, you were 39, I was 36, something like that. There is some learned behaviours that have some habits, you both think are normal. And then there's a whole readjustment process.
A lot for me, of course, wasn't. I mean, a lot of things were normal because I had lived as a priest for all that time. So I hadn't lived with anybody intimately. In fact, one of the reasons why I left the priesthood was because it was very unintimate and we couldn't, it was very difficult to connect with any of my confreres. They just did not want to share the level. And by that stage, I was doing a lot of my own personal work. So realizing how much I wanted to go deeper with anybody. So in terms of living arrangements, no, I hadn't shared this. So that's where quite a lot of the rub happened in those early years. The other thing that was important for us was religion. And because I had come out of, being more than full-time, it was 24/7 existence as a Catholic, and Sally was Anglican, you were very clear that you didn't want to get taken over by the Catholic, because I still had a lot of friends and we were living in Christchurch, and it's taken me quite a while to let go of it all. But you were very clear, weren't you, Sally, at that point?
No, I don't think so.
That you didn't want to be Catholic. Oh, right.
Oh, no, that I didn't want to be Catholic, but I didn't have a problem with you being Catholic.
Oh, no,
For
not
me,
that.
it was almost like you had more of the worry because There was one point where I reached out to just hold his hand as we were walking along the street, and he quickly pulled it away, and priest, thinking,
Roll.
kicked in. Yeah.
Oops. No, that's too public.
Yes. What? A priest walking down the street holding hands? My God. I think for me, the real issue was once we had Felix.
Oh, yeah,
That's when the Anglican Catholic thing hit.
Right. Okay. Well, we got very involved maybe later by the time we moved to Wellington. So we'd been together already by that stage, 10 years, particularly when that became an issue. In that early times, you were very hesitant about moving in with me, and I could just see this is going to work. Well, we can make it work.
Yeah.
I don't really know how. Yeah.
Oh, but that wasn't related to religion, though, John.
No. More about how we could the adjustment. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was difficult for both of us.
Since both of you were doing your own personal work during and throughout that time, right? And psychodrama was part of your lives. Were you using the tools that you were learning in those things with each other, or did you find you kept them for your work?
No, we used them with each other. I can remember we were walking in the park with Rosie, and we did a role reversal with a lamppost. I can remember we sort of did something, it was kind of...
I think for John has been much stronger in doing that. There are funny little things that, as a psychodramatist, he's learned, and one of them is don't say should. You, as soon as you say, I should do this, or even I feel guilty, or all these funny little phrases that I had, and he would go, don't say that. That's wrong. That's naughty. That's bad.
I'm not subtle now. I've been beaten back. I do it more by...
In your head, you say?
In the head. Well, the funny thing is, I think you've mostly stopped doing. You've done what I told you, yeah.
Slowly over time, you were wearing her down too. You were wearing each other down in different ways. Just thinking, John, a lot of the work you do is about, you said, conflict and tension in the workplace, but conflict in relationships is so normal. And you guys were having conflicts around expectations, about changing lifestyles, just having to address things in a whole new light. And I'm wondering, John, for you, did some of the skills, and also Sally in your work too, the skills you were learning together sharpen you in your work with others?
Yeah, they did for me. There's some real classic examples of after Sally's father died, there was a whole lot of, she'd been away looking after him for several months and then came back. I was at home with our son, who was about 10 at the time. We had a good thing going at the house. Sally comes in. She didn't want to take any nonsense from blokes because her two brothers had also been a bit difficult. So anyway, that was a very difficult time. And there was a point we're sitting at the table where Sally said something, and I came out with one of these phrases that I teach people, I said, that sounds something. And she said, don't you try that on me. That's condescending.
Yep.
And it was such a good moment where I remember so vividly, I said, well, I don't know what to say, but what I do know is that I love you and I want to keep going, no matter how hard it is. And that has helped me a lot in my teaching, because I share that story with groups that I'm working with, and they all kind of go, yeah, well, not even you can get it right. And I think that's one of the things in relationships. It's sort of like, what's the bedrock? It's not a technique, it's not techniques, it's not even exactly what you say. Underneath, it's what do you want? I want this relationship to work, and I want to stay with you, even though right now, meh. But it really is, that's one of the key things that I've learned, what's underneath. Those times when it's difficult, that's where I've gone back to. What's the fundamental thing? And so that's how it has been for me.
I think that point when I came back home, I think that was quite a pivotal point in our relationship, actually. So in my first marriage, I had been overly compliant, but increasingly had realised that my very self was being sort of submerged. So when I stepped out of that relationship, I couldn't believe how freeing it felt to just, he wasn't a bad man, but that was the way that he was a bit older, and I don't know whether that had contributed. Anyway, I think that John and my relationship, I think still was kind of doing quite a lot to fit in or to be, make it work. And when I went down and spent that time with my dad, he was dying, but I had to step up and be his advocate. And there were things in the hospital like, there was just a huge number of people and situations where I knew my father very well. I knew what he wanted. I knew what was best for him. And I needed to say it and step up and be quite firm on his behalf. It wasn't for me this time. This was about making sure that Dad was comfortable and, his well-being was prioritised. So I think I just got really strong and really definitive. Mm-hmm. And so when I came back, John went, no, we're doing it this way. No, this is what happens. This is just, this is how it is. And I'm going, no, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to stay that way. I'm back now. I'm part of this. I've got my rights and I'm part of this system. Mm-hmm. And I remember clearly saying to John at the very, very low point, because we got marital counselling, I remember saying, this isn't about leaving you. This is about, I'm in for the long haul, but this is about we've got to change the way that we're relating here. So I was very clear about that, very determined.
I love that you both just shared this story, because I think often couples think that when we hit that point of like, this isn't working anymore, that's a bad sign, instead of, I always say it's sort of a time of your 2.0 of your relationship. It's a bit of like an upgrade, right? Like, it's like, let's use the wisdom of what we learned from the past of our relationship and the work we're doing within ourselves to shift into a healthier, better, wiser version of our relationship. I love that, John, you had that moment of like, the tools that I have are not going to be what works, but I love you. And I want this to work. And Sally's going like, I'm not saying that I want to go, but I'm saying how things are going is not how they will continue. And it is a turning point. And I think it's about enduring the uncomfortability of the turning point and going, this is worth it. We choose each other. And so your story just really speaks to that. You chose each other. It was uncomfortable, but change had to happen. And Sally, what you just shared was basically a replay of the beginning of your relationship and living together. Because you said, and then John was like, these are the expectations. This is how we'll do this. And you're like, I'm not coming back again to this. Like, no. Let's fast forward. Tell me now, for the two of you, what are the challenges you face? What are the repeat arguments? What are the things that still, I call them sandpaper moments, where you're like, ugh, that still gets to the personal work I still need to do it within myself? Like, what are those moments for you guys? I like how you're both looking at each other, and Sally's got a smile like, I know John's.
I've got a very good forgettery. And I'm out of control optimist. So I go, oh, there's nothing. There's no problem. Sally's much more realistic, and we do from time to say we use that intentional dialogue. Is it the Havel Hendricks model of having a dialogue together? So from time to time we say, I would like to have an intentional dialogue with you, and we deal with issues that way. But so they're not so much arguments,
but they're getting out. So the last time was around whether I should be working for money or in relation to our financial situation.
So finance is certainly one right at the moment. It's still, we need to have some pretty big conversations around, partly because of a whole lot of things haven't worked out as they might have post-COVID and all that kind of stuff. So that would be the...
that was the last time that we sat down and had an intentional dialogue. And are you familiar with that? So basically it's one person really just talks about what's going on for them, and the other person has the role of reflecting, demonstrating that they are deeply listening, not thinking about what their response is going to be, not coming up with a counter argument, not becoming defensive, listening deeply, reflecting back to demonstrate that they're actually hearing the thoughts and the feelings that are being expressed, and then you change over.
Yes.
And through that, you get the other person's perspective and you get your head around what this whole situation is. And it helps you build compassion, and it helps you build understanding and appreciation. And I mean, I just remember the last session, I said some pretty bad, horrible things, potentially quite hurtful, but that's how I was feeling. And John was able to sit with that and hear it, and then come back, present his experience and his feelings. So it's not as though it's kind of bypassing or getting around not having to deal with the heavy stuff,
Right.
but it's a safe way of dealing with the heavy stuff.
No, I agree. I'm a very big fan of that technique because it's honing in on a skill so many of us have forgotten how to do, especially in our relationships, which is listen. We're always thinking of the next thing, or we're allowing, I really love Terry Real and his adaptive child and maladaptive child, allowing that maladaptive side of us to come back out and take the driver seat and the wheel and go, well, this is what I think and feel. And so a technique like that, I'm so glad you explained it to our listeners to be able to better understand that we can have intentional conversations with our partners. And though our feelings might be hurt, we can also still hold space for what they need to share and what they need to just say out loud without having us get defensive, slam the door, whatever it might be. But then also we have to hold space for them then sharing how they're impacted by what's said and what their thoughts are. And it is a much calmer dialogue that way. It's much more, it's intentional. That's really what, right? An intentional conversation is that it is intentional instead of reactive. So you can feel what's going on inside of you. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm scared, whatever it might be, but not react from a place like that. We can ask curious questions. We can get feedback. And so I love that that's a tool that you guys use, especially in difficult topics like finances. I mean, that's a heavy one. And currently in today's world, and even though I'd say the last 5-6 years has been a heavy topic that most couples are having to deal with. So this tool is excellent for people to start practicing. Thank you, Sally, for sharing that one. Definitely. Other tools the two of you guys have found you'd like to use or maybe helped in certain seasons of your life where it was like, this is something we really held on to and we practice regularly?
Do you know, I want to talk just very briefly about when I went through menopause.
Yes, please.
I forgot about that.
John.
Awful.
That happened? No. Optimist.
No, well, John can tell his story first. I mean, he's just saying it's awful.
Well,
It was awful.
now that you remember, yes, it was awful. So,
now that he remembers. Now he's back into it.
I remember we were traveling. We were in Vietnam, and I said, I will never travel overseas with Sally again. That's how bad it was. Like I couldn't do anything right, and I didn't know what was going on with her, and just everything, just awful. That's my story.
Yeah. And John insisted that we get marital counselling. So he was the driver for that. And I think we might have had 3 sessions. The counsellor started by meeting with John and then meeting with me. I basically said to the counsellor, this man wants more from me than I can give. I'm giving my all to my work, to my marriage, to my parenting. I'm 110% over capacity, and I'm exhausted, and I'm depressed, and I'm anxious, and I've got all these physical complaints, and I'm not about to sit and work through a process with my husband that requires me to do anything more than what I'm doing. And I was just absolute about it. What I did do was went to a menopause specialist who said, you've got about 18 out of the 21 symptoms of menopause, and
All at the top.
and I recommend that you start this HRT immediately. And so that was a turning point, really. At that point, it was physiological. It was can't just say this is a terrible relationship and, you've got to try harder, I think.
Yeah. And I remember when you rang me up and told me that result, I cried. It was...
You're feeling it.
You're like, it wasn't me.
I'm going to cry now. It just explained everything, and that I'm thinking she's no good. And that's my story. And then actually, it's this physiological thing. Whoa. So we have traveled overseas since.
Good. Because you maybe waited a little longer.
Yeah.
That's such an important phase of life that a couple goes through, because it's not just one person who goes through it. So thank you for sharing that as well. I speak to that a lot to my couples that I work with, and I have a group that I work with of women who are in this phase of life and who don't want to burn it all down, but feel like burning it all down.
I wasn't exercising, I wasn't eating well, and then working out how to sleep and have better, friends and connections. All of those things that belong to well-being. If I had dealt better with those, I don't think I needed to go through taking HRT and being so miserable through menopause. I think that for many women, there's a health and well-being approach.
Definitely.
Could count for 90% of those symptoms.
And the best therapy for our hormones is connection.
Yeah.
It's oxytocin, right? It's that bond. And yet the rage inside of us, I think, repels us from them and them from us. But we need that. We need that connection. We need laughter. We need, lightheartedness. And you get that in relationship with others, even though, again, everything inside of you is like, I can't stand how anybody breathes right now. Everyone bothers me. So it's essential. Well, to wrap us up, what would be, for those who are listening, the one tool that you would say, hey, this is something I think is really important. Every couple should incorporate, not should, sorry, John. Every couple can incorporate into their relationship that's really been helpful for the two of you.
I think we've done a lot of things. There's no one silver bullet for me. Probably the constant is making jokes. But we have very serious conversations. That's the other thing. It's like, this is not just a joking relationship, but it's a very strong and deep relationship where we also joke about things. That would be one but we make, I guess, having that framework where we know that we can talk in a safer way. Mm-hmm. So we're not dealing with these issues on the fly, but it's sit down, let's have this conversation. I can't do it today. What about tomorrow? Yeah, okay, let's book a time.
Yeah, and I think my take on this is that after all of these years, you just get to know the other person. And so there's a pattern of little things that we do on a regular basis that just keep it ticking over. John started this thing at night where the last thing at night, what's one thing you did well? What's one thing that made you happy? And what's one thing that you're grateful for? And so that's kind of like a little end of the day routine. He's also just picked up a little book. What's it called?
Politically Correct Bedtime Stories.
Incredibly short little stories, but that's so funny.
The Three Little Pigs and Rumpelstiltskin, and they're all been rewritten.
Politically correct.
Really be politically correct. They're very funny.
So just a funny little routine. I mean, that's not going to carry on, but sometimes you are reading even a big book and you just give me a quick synopsis of what tonight's chapter is about. It was like, and when we have lunch, when we have a cup of coffee and sit down in the lounge, and John is, what I know about John is that he thinks out loud. So he needs to think out loud quite a few times during the day, and that's about knowing him, accepting that that's who I'm living with. I ain't going to change that. And so how do you not just live with it, but you enjoy it? It becomes, that's a great thing,
Beauty of acceptance. And I think also, for those of us who, my mother died 7 years ago. So for those of us who's lost someone really important to us, you realize that you sometimes then miss the things that annoyed you. Right? And you're like, God, I really missed this or I missed that. And So it's a piece of acceptance and a how can I find beauty in those things that are like, oh gosh, you know what? I actually would probably miss that if that was gone. Yeah, definitely.
For me, I think one of the things that's helped a lot is looking at these we've done a few different marriage enrichment courses and
Weekends
on them, and just kind of knowing that it's the problems from childhood that are actually getting in the way. It's not Sally getting in the way, but it's something else. And kind of having that idea, having different ways of understanding what might be happening right now. For me, I'm also strong on like that evening thing, but counting my blessings, because I know some of those difficult times I've kind of gone for a walk and listed all the things that are wrong with Sally, and then kind of realized, hang on a minute, this is just only going to go downwards. So let me start counting all the positive things and realizing what change that makes in me so that I can come back and kind of go, actually, this is pretty good. But if I keep focusing on what's bad, it will be bad. And if I focus on what's good, it will be good. And that both of them are always there. But it's just a question of where I put my attention and therefore which bit's going to grow in me.
John and Sally, I feel like I could talk with you guys for hours and pull so many nuggets of wisdom. And I just want to thank you for what you shared with us, your willingness to share openly about past arguments and things you went through. I know that the listeners are going to take away a lot of their own little tools or aha moments in their own relationship. It is all about normalizing the journey. It is not a straight path. There's no silver bullet. It isn't easy, but the work is worth it because of the connection that you have over time. So I just wanted to thank you again for taking your time out and sharing with us today.
Yeah, you're most welcome, Katie. It's great. It's good the work that you're doing for people too.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. If people want to connect, ask questions, and John, I know with your work, if they're like, hey, actually conflict and tension in the workplace, plus my marriage, would be some good resources. Where can they be in contact with you?
Well, you've got my email address, haven't you? john@tough.co.nz, TUF. That stands for Thriving Under Fire. That's my business name. So if anybody wants to, and then if they're asking Sally a question, I can pass that on to her. Both of us. But would be, love to hear from anybody who wants to make a comment.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
And if I receive any questions, I will pass them on to you as well, because I'm sure some people will be like, well, what did they do about this? And how did that turn out? They didn't finish and tell me this part. So I will make sure that I pass those on and that they have all the links, John, to be able to contact you and be able to contact Sally through you in that way. Now, dear listener, this will be an episode I know that you'll want to listen to again and to share with those that matter to you. And I hope you will do so. Thank you again, John and Sally, and I will be back next week. Before you go, I want to leave you with this. The effort you put into your relationship is one of the most important investments you'll ever make. How you communicate and grow together shapes your home, your leadership, and the example you set for the people around you. Relationship work is truly legacy work, and it quietly impacts more lives than we often realize. If this episode resonated, consider sharing it with someone you care about, a partner, a friend, or another couple who's building a full life and want their relationship to be the best part of it too. And if you're enjoying these conversations, make sure to follow or subscribe to Relationship Reset. Leaving a rating or review also helps this message reach more couples who are ready to grow with intention. I'll see you next week.